So one of the things that we have to do before we can use our PixScan mat is to do a calibration. And what we need to do is we're going to open our PixScan menu tab here, and we want to click Show Calibration Test Card. And it's going to pull up this page full of a bunch of dots, and you're going to File and Print, and just print it straight to your printer. Don't click Fill to Page, don't click anything else, just print it like you would normally print it. And I've gone ahead and done mine. And so you're going to get a page like this. And it's just going to have a bunch of dots on it. And then what you want to do is you want to take your phone and open your camera. And you want to take a picture. And I've got some shadows here. I'm going to try to avoid your shadows. I'm going to turn on a light to get rid of some shadows. I hope you guys can still see. And you want to fill your camera screen with dots. You don't want to have any margin around your picture. So this is wrong. This is right. And then depending on the type of computer using, I'm using an iPhone and a Mac, and so I want to send it to myself. You can email it to yourself. You can actually have quite a bit of a glare, so I'm going to retake this. And there we go, much better. So you can email it to yourself if you've got however it is you get the pictures from your phone onto your computer. I have a Mac, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click here and I'm going to airdrop it to myself. Then I can accept and save to downloads. So now it's on my computer, and I can click this little plus right here. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to pull up the image that I just sent myself and open, and we're going to run our calibration. It's going to take a minute, and it pulls it up, and it knows everything about it. So it's got the Apple, the iPhone, what the settings are at, and everything. So then we can import our picture from here, and it's going to ask. So if you have a few different devices that you import from, you can also import from your scanner. But if you have a few different phones that you're using, or you have a digital camera or whatnot, you can add those in here. Okay, we are going to play with our PixScan mat, and what I'm going to do is I have been printing off labels. I print these labels off using the print and cut feature with the registration marks, and I use these on some waterproof vinyl labels, and they are weather resistant with a permanent adhesive. I don't want to say waterproof. They can go through the dishwasher. They do withhold to drinkware that sweats, but I put them on the bottom of my mason jar tumblers, my plastic tumblers, my glitter tumblers, my coffee mugs, my wine glasses, and I just stick these on the bottom. I also use them on the bottom of poly bags that I wrap around my tumblers. When I wrap them, I use them to stick receipts and whatnot to the outside of a cello bag for a customer that's picking it up. I use these stickers for a lot, but you see I lose some space here, and so we're going to do our PixScan mat. And so what I want to do is I'm going to merge in my logo, and I have already set this to current printer, and I have my margin, and I do turn on my print border so that I'm not printing outside my printer's capability. And what I want to do is I want to line up this first one within that print border. Okay, and I'm going to open my replicate window here, and I'm going to click on the rows and columns, and you can do the filled page. However, it's going to make it fill outside of the print area, and so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to fill in a few of these. I'm going to take this one and using my right arrow key, I'm going to bounce it all the way to the right here. And I'm leaving a gap for a reason because we do want to be able to fit cut lines in here. And then I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to open up my modify transform panel here. And you can see it's got this spacing, and it will space each design equally along that horizontal axis. And so you can see the space created. And then I'm going to take this and I want to group it because I don't want it to get out of whack. And I'm going to fill it in down the page. And again, we want to leave some space for those cut lines. I'm going to take this last one and move it down. We might have been able to fit one more in here. We'll see what happens. Let's fit one more in here and see what happens. Select all of these, and I'm going to space it evenly along the vertical. Yeah, those are a little close for me. I'm going to undo. Take that last one out. Select all, and space along that vertical axis. So that gives us lots of room. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 9 times 12 is 108. So we're able to fit 108 as opposed to 86. So that is 22 extra labels off of a sheet, and so I'm pretty impressed with that. So the next step that we want to do is we want to send this to our printer, and the labels that I'm using again are a vinyl label. They are for laser printers only. I've found some sources for some vinyl labels that may or may not be weather resistant for an inkjet printer, and I will post the links for those as well. I've not tried them. I can only speak to these, but I will also, as always, link them. And I'm going to change my media type to vinyl. Where is it? Labels, that's what I want. I knew it was in here somewhere. And we are going to set this up to print. And I'm going to hit print. And it does take a minute. Okay, so we have printed out our sheet of labels, and we are going to place it on the PixScan mat. The PixScan mat is very similar to the Cameo mat in that it's very sticky when you first get it, and so you want to de-sticky it. You can use a cloth that doesn't have much lint on it. You can press it up against your jeans. If you've got an old t-shirt that you've washed a bunch that's not real linty, you can use that as well, but you do want to de-sticky it some. And then you want to line up your item, and it's 8.5 inches tall and 11 inches wide, and so maybe 12 inches wide. And so I just kind of line it up along that bottom line and place it on the mat. I try to get it as straight as I can, even though it doesn't matter that much. So we just want to get that on there as straight as we can. And then we are going to snap a picture. So again, we're going to open our camera, and I don't know if you can see this, but I want to make sure that I have the entire PixScan mat in my frame, because you have all these little marks that you have to get. It uses to calibrate, and it doesn't have to be perfectly above, but you do want to try and avoid too much of an angle if you can. And so again, I'm trying to avoid a shadow if I can. Adjust my lights here, and I want to snap a picture. And so this is the picture that I have. And again, because I'm on a Mac, I can click this little share button. I want to come up here in the airdrop and push the button. It's going to pull up on my computer, and I'm going to save to downloads. So now I'm going to open a new window. I'm going to open the PixScan menu. So that's this one right here that we used earlier. Here's the phone that we calibrated earlier. Import PixScan image from file. And there's the one I just took a picture of and open. And then it's going to take just a minute for it to get that aligned and use the calibration it did before to get this image on our screen. And there we go. And don't worry about the colors being off and whatnot, it's just a picture. I'm going to turn off my print border. And you have a few different options. You can use the trace function, you can draw lines freehand, you can do it however you want, and I just want to cut circles around this. We're doing something real easy today. And so I'm going to come in here, and if you remember my last video, we talked about these crosshairs. See these lines coming out of my mouse? That is in your page setup. If you click the grid and turn on your crosshairs, this is where you find that. So I'll go back to the circle. When you're dragging a circle, if you hold down the shift key, if you notice, I can make ovals and all that. If you hold down the shift key, it will keep the proportions perfectly even. And I want to fill that in with transparent fill and make sure I can see my cut lines, and then adjust the size accordingly. So there we have our circle. Now what we want to do is we want to replicate this circle over and over again. And so you could go back to the tool that we used earlier, the replicate tool, and it's not necessarily going to be perfect each time, but we should be able to use that align tool that we used earlier as long as we get the first one and the last one where they need to be. So let's get this on here, select all of them, open the transform, and we're pretty good. I didn't get it on there perfectly straight, so you can see some of these are off a little bit. But let's nudge those just a hair to get them around that logo nice and neat. And then I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to right click and group, and then let's replicate these down. And 1, 2. So then we're going to take this last row here. I'm going to use my arrow keys and nudge and get that lined up. Select all of them, and then our vertical spacing, and then come in and do any kind of adjusting that you need to do, because again, this paper wasn't perfectly placed on the mat, but we should be able to get it pretty close. And I could cut out the shape of the gemstone if I wanted to. It doesn't have to be circles. You can do it, you know, however you want. But now what we're going to do is we're going to load this into our machine. We're back over here to the glitter cameo, the holographic cameo. Okay, so we're going to load it into our machine. And we were going to go to send. I have saved in a custom material type for these labels. My settings aren't going to be the same as yours because again I'm using that CVO9 blade. I like to select everything and just make sure we're set to cut and send, and then we are going to press start, and it's going to read those registration marks on the mat. peel it off this mat. And again, we did de-sticky the mat, and it's still pretty sticky. So be careful when you remove it. This particular vinyl paper that I have does have a split seam down the back, which is great if you're doing like a full sheet something. But after it cuts, what I do is I take some packing tape and just slap it on the back so that it doesn't come apart. I think they have one that doesn't have the split. Maybe they were out of stock when I bought mine or something. I'm not sure. This is my second pack, but it's been a while since I bought it. So again, that mat was pretty sticky, so we did curl a little bit. But it looks like I might have cut a little deep. There we go. So there's the label, if you could see that. And as an example, here's a bless you jar, and I could just stick that right on the bottom and brand it. And again, on the bottom of mugs or glitter tumblers or pretty much anything. I mean, you could stick these on there. You never let anything leave that doesn't have branding, even if you're giving it to a friend. If you don't have a business and you're just making stuff for friends, if you've got a logo, stick it on there. You know, companies like Nike and Adidas and all of those, everything's got their logo on it. Do the same thing. Everything should have a brand. And so slap it on there, and we'll do some more complicated stuff later, but I wanted to start out with something pretty simple. But there we go. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know.